welcome to Chore Chapters, because everyday tasks need good company. I'm Leo, and with me as always, we have got Luna.
Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Today we've got a thrilling and interesting story lined up, so grab your headphones and let's dive straight into the story.
Okay, picture this. June 1999, a Missouri cornfield, miles from anywhere, really. And the body of Ricky McCormick is found. A grim discovery, sure. But here's the twist that still baffles everyone.
The notes.
Exactly. 2 handwritten notes found in his pockets, pages just filled with, well, what looks like total gibberish. Letters, numbers, symbols.
And the key thing is, nobody, not even the FBI's absolute best code breakers, has ever figured them out.
It's like a locked room mystery, but the clue itself is written in a language nobody understands. It's, baffling. So for this deep dive, we're digging into all the sources you've gathered. FBI files, police reports, news articles, even some deep dives from online forums.
A real mix.
Our mission today is to really unpack this, understand Ricky McCormick, the man, figure out the context of his death, and explore this enduring puzzle of his final message. I want to pull out the crucial bits, give you a clear look at a case that's still got everyone scratching their heads.
Yeah, what's so fascinating, I think, is just how many layers of mystery there are. It's not just the notes, is it? It's Ricky McCormick's life itself and the whole situation surrounding his death. It really makes you question what's even solvable sometimes.
Absolutely. So let's start there with Ricky McCormick himself. The sources paint a bit of a confusing picture, especially about whether he could even write properly. What did we learn about him?
Right, that's a key point. He was 41. Sources describe him as poor, possibly dealing with some mental health challenges.
Okay.
But the literacy thing is, well, it's all over the place. Some family members apparently said he could barely spell his own name.
Really?
Yeah. But others remembered him writing codes, like little secret messages, even when he was a kid.
Huh. So right from the start, you've got this contradiction. Makes it hard to even know who might have written these notes, doesn't it?
Exactly. It adds this whole layer of uncertainty before you even get to the code itself.
And then there's the scene where he was found. You mentioned the cornfield, decomposing. The sources say he'd been out there maybe 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, exposed to the elements, and the decomposition was pretty severe.
So bad his fingerprints had fallen off, apparently, making visual ID impossible.
Right. Which is just incredibly difficult for investigators.
And didn't the police have a theory about that? About the decomposition being maybe accelerated?
They did speculate, yeah, that maybe the killer kept the body somewhere hot before dumping it in the field to speed things up, maybe obscure evidence. Grim stuff.
Definitely grim. And all this, the state of the body, it hampered the investigation from day one.
Hugely. The medical examiner couldn't pin down an exact cause of death. Officially, it was ruled undetermined.
Undetermined.
Yeah.
But the police suspected foul play.
Oh, absolutely. Based on everything, the location, the circumstances, they strongly suspected foul play, so the manner of death was classified as homicide.
Okay.
But connecting the dots, it was tough. You had forensic limits because of the body's condition, plus tracking his life, which seemed pretty transient. It created major hurdles right away. There's that quote from Captain David Tiefenbrunn, St. Charles County Police. He basically said, "My police instincts tell me there's foul play here. We just can't prove it."
Wow. And then amidst all this confusion and lack of hard evidence, they find the most confusing clue of all.
The notes.
These 2 handwritten sheets in his pockets, just covered in what looks like random stuff. Letters, numbers, symbols, some bits circled in bubbles, others laid out like a letter.
Yeah, it's a really odd mix of structures on the page. Not just random scribbles, but not obviously a standard code either.
And the initial police reaction was just confusion. Maybe some even thought it was just nonsense.
Pretty much, yeah. Understandably, I guess. What do you do with that?
But somehow these notes didn't just get filed away as nonsense. They ended up with the FBI, specifically their Cryptanalysis and Racketeering Records Unit, the CRRU.
Right, the top guns when it comes to codes.
And this is where the story takes another turn, because the CRRU, they held onto these notes for, what, over a decade?
Yeah, 12 years. Kept them completely secret, even from McCormick's own family.
Wow. And they were actively trying to crack them all that time. What did they actually do?
They threw the book at it. All the standard stuff, frequency analysis, looking for common letters like E in English.
Right.
Substitution tests, trying to swap letters systematically. Comparing it to known ciphers, nothing worked. It just defied all the usual cryptographic techniques.
So even the experts were stumped.
Completely. Which really makes you wonder about the code itself. What kind of system was it? The head of the CRU back then, Dan Olson, he said something telling.
What was that?
He said, "It doesn't happen often that we have an unsolved cipher of this length and significance." And the big problem wasn't just solving it, it was that they couldn't even figure out the system behind it. That's usually step 2 for them, and they couldn't get past it.
So they couldn't even categorize the type of code it was.
Exactly. But Olson was very clear. He said, "The characters are not random. The problem is we don't know why it is not solvable." He was adamant it wasn't just meaningless gibberish.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
12 years of the FBI's best minds hitting a brick wall. So what happened then?
Well, this is a really unprecedented part. In March 2011, after all that time, the FBI basically threw up their hands.
House.
They went public, released images of the notes, and asked the public, amateur codebreakers, puzzle enthusiasts, anyone for help.
Oh, wow. That's a bidding defeat almost.
It's incredibly rare, and the response was massive, like over 7,000 comments and analyses flooded in within just 2 years. They had to set up a whole separate web page just to handle it all.
So citizen detectives jumped all over.
Well, yeah. They'd even shown it to the American Cryptogram Association a couple of years earlier, in 2009. Even they were baffled. No solutions.
It just deepens the mystery, doesn't it?
Absolutely. That FBI statement basically summed it up. We are really good at what we do, but we could use some help with this one. That tells you how unique and difficult this McCormick cipher really is.
So, okay, the FBI goes public, the internet goes wild. Naturally, theories start flying. Let's get into those. What were people suggesting these notes actually meant?
Right, and the theories run the gamut, as you'd expect. One big one, pushed by people like cryptographer Nick Pelling and lots of online commenters, is that it's not some complex cipher.
Okay.
But maybe it's just Ricky's own personal shorthand, maybe influenced by dyslexia, or just his own unique way of writing things down, you know?
How would that work?
Well, they point to patterns. Things like NCDE, WLD, C, PS pop up repeatedly. Maybe PS means person, or something similar, a mnemonic only he understood.
Okay.
And they noticed odd but consistent ways characters were inserted, like you might see ONDCE, then on SDE, then on read. It suggests a system, but maybe a very personal, maybe flawed one. Some even wondered if he was sort of faking literacy, copying shapes from signs like south, east, west, north.
Interesting. So personal code, maybe not meant for anyone else.
Could be.
But then there's the drug angle. The sources mention he was involved in drug trafficking, working for some pretty dangerous people.
Yes, that's a very strong thread.
Yeah.
He was linked to the Hamdallah brothers Juma and Baha, or Bob, known to be violent, involved in trafficking.
And his girlfriend thought he was smuggling for them.
Yeah, she believed he was running marijuana, maybe on trips down to Florida, and apparently he seemed really scared in the time leading up to his death.
So this theory suggests the notes are related to that, like a ledger.
Exactly, maybe an uneducated drug dealer's shorthand, as one source put it. Details of deals, customers, amounts, locations, something like that. It fits the context of his known associates and activity.
Okay, that makes sense. What about the medical notes theory? That came up too.
It did. This one ties into his health problems. He reportedly had a couple of emergency room visits shortly before he disappeared. Chest pains, shortness of breath.
Right.
So some people wondered if the notes were reminders about medication or instructions from the hospital.
Any specific examples?
Well, someone tried to interpret 3XRL as maybe meaning take orally 3 times daily.
Bit of a stretch, maybe.
It is a stretch, yeah. And 99.84 could be a dosage.
Yeah.
It's speculative, but it connects to his known health issues and, his somewhat erratic behavior mentioned in some reports.
Then there was that really complex idea from a linguist, Peter M., the Arabic transliteration theory.
Ah, yes, that one's fascinating. Because his employers, the Hamdallahs, were Palestinian immigrants.
Okay.
So Peter M. proposed that the notes aren't English code at all, but maybe a really non-standard way of writing Arabic sounds using English letters, a personal transliteration system.
How did he connect that?
He linked specific numbers 71, 74, 75 to mortgage rates published in the Wall Street Journal around June 1999.
Wow.
And other terms he tried to link to financial concepts, suggesting maybe they were business notes, loan calculations, something related to his employer's dealings. In his theory, even NCBE could mean something like rate or percentage in Arabic.
That's intricate, requires a lot of assumptions.
Definitely. But it's an attempt to bridge that potential cultural and linguistic gap.
What about the psychological angle? The idea that it wasn't a code at all, just mental disturbance.
Yeah, the thought disorder theory. Some suggested it was the scribbles of a mentally deranged man, pointing to the repetitions, the long strings of characters, linking it to his reported erratic behavior before his death.
But others pushed back on that.
They did, because even if it's weird, the notes do seem to have some structure. There are patterns, repeating elements, sections laid out like a letter. That suggests intent, you know? Maybe not a perfect code, but not just random scribbling from psychosis either. It implies some kind of system was at play.
Right. Makes sense. And then we get into the really out there stuff.
Yeah.
Government secrets, military intelligence.
Yeah, the rabbit hole gets deep there. Because there were some major intelligence facilities near St. Louis, like NIMA, the National Intelligence Mapping Agency.
Right.
So some theories propose McCormick somehow stumbled upon discarded documents, maybe raw signal intelligence, highly classified stuff.
How would he?
Exactly. It's a huge leap. But they tried to connect letter groups in the notes to abbreviations for military systems, J-bombs, UAV drones. Someone even tried to link it to the NATO bombing in Belgrade in '99, suggesting flawed targeting data he somehow intercepted. Highly speculative, obviously.
Yeah, sounds like it. Any other quick theories worth mentioning?
Well, there are simpler ones, too. Maybe directions, like a map through the woods. Or even, bizarrely, a recipe for making LSD. People really let their imaginations run wild.
Understandable, I guess, when you have a puzzle like this.
The human mind hates a vacuum, right? Especially a mysterious one.
Definitely. But amidst all this focus on the notes, we have to remember, Ricky McCormick's murder is still unsolved.
Tragically, yes. The notes might be a distraction or the key, but the underlying crime remains.
And the police did have suspects, right? Like Baha Hamdallah, the employer with the violent rep, and another dealer, Gregory Lamar Knox.
They did investigate them, yes. Given the drug connections and Hamdallah's reputation, they were obvious persons of interest. But ultimately, investigators couldn't find concrete evidence linking either of them directly to McCormick's death.
So, another dead end.
Pretty much. And that ambiguity around the cause of death shifting from undetermined to just suspicious didn't help solidify a case.
You mentioned environmental factors earlier, too. Toxic waste sites.
Yeah, that came up in some discussions online and in articles. People pointed to places like the Weldon Springs Ordnance Site near St. Charles County, a former explosives plant and uranium processing site,
Oh, wow.
and just general concerns about industrial chemicals in the wider St. Louis area. There was some grim speculation that maybe McCormick's poor health, his shortened life, might have been connected to environmental exposure, though there's no hard proof linking that to his death specifically. It just adds another layer of grim context.
So stepping back from the details, what does this whole case really tell us? It seems like a perfect storm of limitations.
I think that's a good way to put it. It highlights the limits of forensic science when evidence is degraded, like the body was. And maybe more profoundly, it shows the limits of cryptanalysis, because it's a stark reminder that not all codes can be broken, especially if it's a highly personal system, a idiolect code, made by one person for their own use without a shared key or context. If the creator is gone and left no Rosetta Stone,
Then it might just be impossible.
it might be. And some critics pointed to that long 12-year delay before the FBI went public, suggesting maybe it wasn't 12 years of constant, intense code breaking, but perhaps some bureaucratic foolishness or the file just sitting unsolved for periods. But regardless, it shows how we often expect neat answers, especially from agencies like the FBI. And sometimes the truth is just messy, obscured by time, by circumstance, by the limits of our tools.
So we're left with these huge unanswered questions. Were the notes a clue to who killed him? Were they just his private thoughts, a drug ledger, something else entirely? And maybe the most chilling question, did he even write them? Or could his killer have planted them?
That possibility hangs there too, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
You know, the FBI themselves said they'd still want to know how the code is solved, even if it turns out to be something totally mundane like a grocery list or love letter.
Yeah.
It's, I think, just speaks to that basic human need to know to solve the puzzle, regardless of what the answer is.
Absolutely. And maybe that's the final thought here. It raises this important question, doesn't it? About the power of an unresolved mystery. How it keeps speaking to us, keeps challenging us. It forces us to face that unsettling possibility that some truths, like whatever Ricky McCormick was trying to say, might just stay locked away forever. A maddening whisper from the past, but one we can't stop listening to.
Thanks so much for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us out. Until next time, take care and keep your chores company.